I don't know what's more magical, whether it's hearing Mama Afrika, even if you close your eyes and you don't see the music video, or watching her performing at her best on stage. 15 years since the passing of the legend Miriam Makeba. Mama Afrika, of course, breaking barriers, not just with her music, of course, but her social activism as well. Many people knew how outspoken she was, an impassioned speech to the United Nations. This was back in 1963 as well. The difference that has made. Many people credit her with many changes here in South Africa. Would have been turning 91 years old today, and we continue to celebrate her as though she is still here, because Lindelani Makeba, grandson, is going to tell me it does feel like Mama Afrika is still here, doesn't it? I mean, happy birthday to your gran. How are you?
I'm well, thank you so much. And it does kind of feel like she's still here in a lot of ways. And I think she is.
I think she is. I mean, look at this. I mean, anyone, even globally, even if you don't play a song, you don't play a music video, you just look at a photo, and everyone will know who this is as well. So 15 years later, and we can talk about her career, of course we can. We can talk about all the incredible things she's done. But what was Granny like?
Honestly, she's everything you might imagine. She was definitely a larger-than-life personality, very wise, extremely kind. But I guess to the rest of the world, she may seem like this giant, naturally so, considering the life that she led and all the different achievements that she managed to make. But to us, she was just Granny. You know, she was very humble at home, very considerate, very quick to listen and slower to speak. And I think in a lot of ways we still take so much from her, learn so much from her, even beyond this life right now.
I've always been curious, as a family member or as a family of someone who was so iconic, did you, this is 15 years ago, so you must have been quite a bit younger, of course, did you know who Miriam Makeba was beyond Granny?
Well, absolutely. It was very difficult to overlook that part. I mean, she was genuinely adored by people all over the world, and I think one thing that was as surprising as her talent and her heart was the love that so many people had for her. And I think it was more so because of her genuine attitude towards everybody she met. She never really cared about status, she never really cared about necessarily your background, she really just cared about the quality of your character. And that's something I feel like we all kind of have within us, and as a result, when we see that in somebody else exemplified so purely, it just speaks to us.
Did you ever have those friends who just wanted to come around to see Miriam Makeba, even though they were actually your friends? You kind of got to Granny's house and you wouldn't see them again, you know, for 6 hours because they're sitting with her in the kitchen.
Occasionally, I would say it was more the generation ahead or 2 generations ahead of me that were a little bit more cognizant of who she was. Us as children, we had the experience of her immediate love, her immediate presence, and as big as that was, she just had this uncanny ability to kind of leave work on stage and then turn into a complete grandmother at home. So
was that weird to see? Like, you would have, for example, been there on Sunday afternoon and then suddenly Granny is off to go and perform. Was that a weird dichotomy to get your head around?
I mean, honestly, no. To me, it was very normal because I grew up around it. I mean, I was in my mother's stomach when she was still performing with my grandmother. So before I was here, I was listening to her voice and enjoying her music. So by the time I was born, it was quite common for me to sit backstage as she finishes and then go to school tomorrow the next morning. So it was an interesting balance. But
and I'm sure, as many grannies do, I'm sure if you stepped out of line, she would have come at you quite quickly if you needed to. Yes, lovely on stage, lovely on TV, but if you stepped out of line...
She didn't mind grabbing my ear quickly.
She grabbed your ear. I can actually see her doing that as well. I mean, I know you get asked this, I'm sure, every anniversary of her passing, but I mean, is there one, I mean, it's an impossible question, but I'm going to try and ask it. Is there one memory, maybe that first memory or maybe the last memory, that you sit back over a glass of whiskey and go, that's how I remember her?
Well, it's tough. It's literally endless. She had so many moments. But I think for me, personally, it was when she was at the Miriam Makeba Center for Girls, and this is the first time I remember seeing her speak to the multitude of young ladies that were there. And you could just see how much she cared. She really cared about ensuring that these young ladies had a better chance at life, had a better future. And she dedicated pretty much everything she had of herself in the last years to ensuring that this entity would be created and that the young ladies of this country would be protected, would be respected, and considered a lot more. Because they are not only the daughters of our country and our continent, but they are our future mothers. our current sisters, our nieces. And I think to this day, that's something that always stuck with me because it was a part of her character that she didn't necessarily flaunt. Not that there really was any part that she did, but it was so serious to her. This was a problem long before GBV really became a nationwide concept and a nationwide discussion. She identified this problem very early and she took it upon herself to address it. So seeing that strength, that sense of leadership and that genuine love she had for these young ladies sticks with me to this day.
It's not even just sticking with you. It's one of those moments where you look back on an artist's life and even all these years later, the work she did then genuinely still runs with the same sort of impact today as it did all those years ago as well. Were you allowed to have a favorite song or did you have to love all the albums? Or was there one that stood out for you? Were you allowed to just have one favorite?
Interesting. I think my favorites have changed over the years. When I was younger, I very much enjoyed the stuff that we would dance to, and I still do, you know, pata pata. But now I find myself appreciating a little bit more of her lesser-known stuff. She was quite an amazing interpreter. She had an amazing ability to sing in various languages. Recently, I just found out about the song called Africa. My girlfriend actually introduced me to it, that she had sung in Arabic. I didn't even know. I didn't know she was singing in Arabic. She was singing in Portuguese and French and pretty much any language that she felt an interest in and wanted to try. So today I think maybe I'll probably go with When I Pass On. When I Passed On. That was a beautiful song. And I think it represented exactly what she thought of her life at that time and what she thought her life would be afterwards. And yeah. Definitely.
I didn't know that. That's incredible. I actually want to go and see if I can find it. Is that available somewhere?
It's available everywhere. Africa.
Miriam Makeba. Go take a listen to that. How does the Makeba family celebrate Granny on a day like today?
Well, we try to take the opportunity to remember her collectively with the rest of the world. We also like to ensure that people are aware of her current initiatives that still exist, namely the Miriam Makeba Center for Girls that we mentioned earlier. We're currently in the process of revamping and renovating so that we can hopefully open by the end of the year. And currently it is open as a somewhat of a recreational community center, so a lot of people come there to do their homework, to study, so on and so forth.
Because education was also something she spoke about a lot.
Extremely big. Every single one of the girls that I mentioned earlier, she housed them, she fed them, she clothed them, and she ensured each and every one of those ladies was in school. And essentially that's something we're working towards as a family. To make sure that that part of her memory is always alive. If anybody does want to support, you can visit miriammakeba.org and all of our information is there.
I was about to ask you, but you led me very nicely to where people can do that, because I think on a day like today they're going to want to. Very quickly, as I say goodbye to you, Lindelani, I could talk to you all day, I would love to, but I need to say goodbye in a moment. I imagine waking up on a Sunday morning in Granny's house. Was she ever singing in the house, just out of the blue, or was that reserved only for stage? Because what a treat.
She would sing all of the time, literally all. We were spoiled. We were so spoiled with her voice. And I think the one thing that competed with her voice was probably her cooking.
Really?
She was an amazing chef. So she would be singing while she's cooking, and two of my favorite things would be happening right then and there. So she was something else. Really an amazing voice.
I don't know why. That's exactly how I imagined it.
Yeah.
Mama Afrika singing and making incredible food with her family around. It's exactly how I imagined. And I knew when I was going to talk to you, I was like, I've got to ask Lindelani this, because in my head, that's what I imagined it was. And Lindelani, I know that it was 15 years ago, but you can see none of us have forgotten her. The country hasn't forgotten her. The world hasn't forgotten Mama Afrika. And I appreciate you coming. And a happy birthday to your granny.
Thank
and I
you so
appreciate
much.
you coming in. Lindelani Makeba, grandson, of course, of the legend herself, Mama Afrika, Miriam Makeba.